Welcome to the show. For 3 years now, 3 of our local schools have had an opportunity to have a 1-to-1 ratio of digital devices to students. The results are in and the program is reported to be a big success, so much so that the local school system leaders created and received approval on an expanded plan to provide one-to-one devices to all students in 2nd through 12th grades. Tonight we are pleased to welcome Dr. Clayton Wilcox, the Superintendent of Washington County Schools. Dr. Wilcox, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So since I'm the moderator, I'm going to take the first question.
All right.
So when I was in school, if I brought a calculator to math class, I was cheating. You are now giving these students what I term the vade mecum, or in more simplistic terms, the ready reference for everything. What's the change?
Well, first of all, we think that our kids have to have a great fundamental knowledge before they start to use these devices. We think these devices are just tools that our kids will use. I mean, if anybody thinks today about the workplace that they live in, they're not required to use the abacus. They're not required to use the skills that they want to. You know, they use the technology to make their job simpler, to provide more time for real work. And so that's really what we're doing. We're giving our kids the opportunity to use tools that allow them to really focus on the work that they're doing.
So tell us about the program.
Well, in Washington County, what we're moving to is a one-to-one device for all students from 12th grade to 2nd grade, so we'll kind of go backwards. In 2nd grade, we're going to give every other student a device, so we're really saying to those teachers, use the devices when you think it's appropriate, as opposed to having a kid who has it with him all the time. And we're really not going to give kids much experience with devices in kindergarten and 1st grade, because we think there are some other things that kids should be focused on, not only the developmental things, but some of the foundational skills that young people need.
Okay. Jim?
My question is that I think we have 19,000 iPads, and how many MacBooks, and how can you control them not being stolen by kids, or if somebody takes them home and doesn't bring it back? Do you have a method in place? I'm sure you do, because I'm sure it's all breaking down, but that's a lot of iPads to keep control of.
It really is. And I think it's a great question, because we've heard it time and time again. First of all, every single device that we have has embedded into its BIOS that we own it as a district. So if that device starts up somewhere outside of our network, we're going to be able to recapture it.
Right.
But probably more importantly than that, what we've done is we've put a QR code on the front, on the startup menu of every iPad, so that when it starts up, they're going to see that it belongs to the Washington County Public Schools. If they simply scan it, they'll actually see which student it belongs to. We've put property tags inside the casing of those devices, and we're going to look at some way of casing, adding some security tape to the case itself. So we think we're going to do a pretty good job of watching it. We know that 1 or 2 of the devices are going to slip away at each school. It's kind of the nature of the beast today. Many of our administrators look at these things almost as a consumable device.
Right.
But we also understand our responsibility to taxpayers.
I agree with that, yes. Good.
Henry?
Question on available internet resources. I presume these are going to be going home with the students, allowing them to do work at home. Most of us have high-speed internet available at home, but some students are disadvantaged. Do we have a program to assist them to get them in at a low-cost internet program for them to do the work?
We've had a number of conversations around that issue, and we're working on some solutions to that right now. One of the things that we know is that the public library system provides internet access to young people, Wi-Fi environments. We know that many of the churches and community centers provide Wi-Fi. But in some students' homes, that's a different matter. And so we're looking at everything from taking a bus with a Wi-Fi enabled device that perhaps is a surplus bus, parking it in a neighborhood. We have had conversations with Antietam Cable about making Wi-Fi available at a lower price around the community. We have not resolved that question for all kids yet, but it is something that's always kind of top of mind for us.
Okay, great.
Wow.
Just from an educational, theory perspective and everything, what do you consider, the prime values of using this new tool? Do you have, some...
It's a really good question, but I think these devices give our kids a window on the world. And, I've spent some time in the last few days going into schools as they've been rolling them out. And, one of the things I think that it's hard for me to escape is that over 50% of our kids today come from a free and reduced lunch price environment. That means their family is challenged fiscally. They don't have the opportunities that many of us have to travel and see the world. So when you begin to talk about things, about the great artwork that's in the Louvre, many of our kids can't go see that. They've not been able to go to Paris with their families. They've not been able to go see some of those works. And so these devices allow them to use it. In our local front, you know, a lot of times we talk, for example, about the U.S. Constitution. We talk about some of the Founding Fathers' documents. And kids don't know. They've not been to Washington, D.C. to see this. But in real time, in real space, they can pull these documents up. They can have them at their hand. I just think it's a foundational tool for our young people today.
So one of the things that I noticed as I was reading through the material is this reference to the Future Ready District Pledge. Can you tell us what that is and how it informed our program?
Well, we signed on to the program, and really what it was just kind of a catalyst for us to embrace change, to say that, you know what, we believe that these devices in the hands of kids with great teachers will enable our young people to do more. So we talked about the fact that if we believe that, there are certain things that we have to have ready. We have to have the bandwidth available in our schools so that the devices are actually meaningful. We had to make sure that kids had a number of devices, so we moved to a one-to-one. Because we really believe that the future for most of our kids is going to be very different than how we were educated in our past. These kids are going to use these tools to create new and novel knowledge from that which they now have. We think that our kids are going to access a broader world using these devices. And that's what that Future Ready Pledge said, is do the things that are necessary to make sure your kids can use this technology.
Okay. Yeah.
Dr. Wilcox, the people or the kids that are enrolled in, I guess, to cyber school or, you know, or kids that want to learn at home, you know, there's a lot of homeschool starting to develop now. Do they get a iPad, or are they not into that ballpark yet?
If the parents have chosen homeschool, no, they're not going to get a device. This is for the kids that are fully enrolled in the public school system. You know, my sense is that you know, if you start talking about trying to build brand loyalty and all that, I think there are some parents who are going to look at this and say, wow, this is a progressive school district in the sense that we're applying technology to 21st century problems. I think we might see some people come back to us for that. I think people will see that, you know, we're serious when we talk about teaching fundamental skills, but also giving kids the opportunities to go places they can't go normally. I think parents might begin to kind of re-enroll with us.
Dr. Wilcox, what do you have, you know, for plans for involving the teachers and continuing ongoing? Yeah, there was a wonderful article in the Washington Post this last weekend. I don't know if you saw it, about Montgomery County using it, and the tremendous possibilities here. But I guess the teachers are still the prime part of the classroom, and how they can really leverage this.
Well, we have a comprehensive plan of professional development, and what we've tried to do is meet teachers at where they are, because we know not all teachers are at the same place using this technology. So we deliver technology training at the school site. We've also created a series of webinars that teachers can view at home from the comfort of their home in their pajamas, if that's what they choose to do. We are also providing district-level workshops where people come to our CES Center on Downsville Pike and get training in the use of the device. We also are sending people across the country to see how these technologies are being used appropriately in other settings. So we're trying to provide a broad array, because what we know is that if the classroom teacher isn't comfortable with the technology, the kids aren't going to get those experiences. You know, it's interesting. I said recently at a conference that somebody asked me the question about, do you think technology is going to replace the teacher in the classroom? I said, absolutely not. Teachers are the centerpiece of everything that we do. But I do believe this, that teachers who don't use technology will someday be replaced by teachers who do.
A question regarding textbooks. Are we retiring the hard, thick textbooks, and we're going to be looking to put the digital textbooks on the iPad? And also, what's the cost comparison between having the textbooks that we are replacing every 3 to 5 years versus the investment that we're doing on the iPad?
That's a great question. The textbook manufacturers have figured this out, so
Of course they did.
Of course they did. But you know, I think we're going to have a blend. I think you'll always have some textbooks, because we believe in the value of having a book in your hand and sitting down and curling up with it, whether it's a great piece of literature or whether it's a math textbook. I think we'll see it. But one of the things that we are seeing is some of the digital tech books that embed real-time video, that let kids actually manipulate data in real time, are really powerful devices once they're put in a young person's hands. So I think what you'll see in this school district is a blend of the traditional, and I think you'll see some of the digital textbooks. But what I will say to you is the textbook manufacturer figured out, so the digital version is not much different than the hard copy version, or vice versa, and usually you have to buy one to get the other.
So we're using technology to complement the hard copy version.
Absolutely.
So we've got about a minute left, and I have one tangential question that I want to ask. But first of all, before I do that, I want to point out that it's my understanding that we are the first system in the state to do this. Is that correct?
I think some other states have, or some other districts have announced that they were going to, but we're the first to actually actualize it and make it happen for our kids.
And that is very cool in my opinion. But my tangential question is, I'm reading a lot about this parent university. Can you talk to us about that for 30 seconds?
Absolutely. Parent University is simply this, is that we believe that those people who live in this community have an opportunity to know what's going on in their schools, and so we're opening up our schools. We're taking me and a number of the administrative team members to talk about the issues that are important in the day with the parents, the people who actually make it possible for us to do what we do each and every day. So we've had one that we've focused on budget and finance. We've had another that was focused on technology. We're going to do some in curriculum in the near future. And we hope that folks in this community will participate. If I may just say one thing.
Absolutely.
This whole technology initiative would not be possible if we didn't have great classroom teachers who are leading the way with this. This really is on their backs, and quite honestly, hundreds of teachers have come to us. In fact, thousands, 1,000 or more teachers have actually participated in surveys and other things saying, this is where we need to go. So, you know, I'm blessed that we, you know, have such a great teaching force here.
I actually saw that when I was in leadership of Washington County. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Wilcox. We appreciate you being here. Next up on the flip side, how would you spend $200? Night on the town, tickets to the theater, new outfit, or how about paying the fine for setting your refuse out too early in the day? Stay tuned, because when we come back, we're talking trash.